Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Hello. We're back for yet another BumbleKast with more questions, oddly enough.
No. We have so many patrons over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members. It's no surprise that we are absolutely under a deluge of questions.
The deluge is putting it lightly, sir. But that's okay. It's a good problem to have. Keep sending in those questions. Please. All right, let's get started off with this one from Allison S. The Chaotix have been given a tough case. Where do glasses go when they're taken off? Seriously, I just wanted to brush my hair. If you do not wear glasses and therefore cannot understand the pain, Ian, think of Velma, or just ask Kyle.
No, I understand. I've lost my shades more than once,
On your head.
On my head, hanging off the front of my shirt, in my hands.
I don't take my glasses off very often, so...
And in Vector's case, he'll level with you. This might be just too hard for him. He lost his headphones 2 years ago and still hasn't found them.
He had to go buy a new pair.
Well, he's cheap. He can't buy a new pair, so he just has to do without. Luckily, he can just imagine the music really well.
Oh, okay. Good.
And SB was just staring at him going, Vector, pat your head.
Mm-hmm. They're on your head, dummy.
SB's a genius. He found them. He cracked the case.
They're on your head, dummy. I'm trying to think. When do I take my glasses off? I guess going to bed, in the shower, usually. And that's about it. I don't really take my glasses off, so I don't lose them that often. So I guess I'm lucky in that sense. But if you have longer hair, it might be more, might want to take your glasses off more, but more often.
All I know is I have this one dish right by the front door where I always put my keys and my wallet and my shades, because if they wind up anywhere else, they're gone forever.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's true. I have a little basket thing on my desk that they go into, all my stuff. So, yep. All right. Let's move on to the next question from Alphamon or Yukin. I'm curious about what the word is on Green Hill Zone, or better yet, South Island in general. The first game implied that the island was uninhabited, formerly home to the last civilization to hold the Chaos Emeralds, and that's debatable as Gerald possibly had them. However, Forces happens, and now there appears to be villages there, and now Prime suggests Sonic and Pals hang there, with Tails having a workshop. And in relation to said question, if Green Hill Zone is the same between all three works just mentioned, what happened to the Sandhill junkyard full of robots?
I don't want to put too fine a point on it. I don't want to be like the definitive word on this, but don't be too literal with your interpretation. Like, if you and your friends go camping in an uninhabited forest, that doesn't mean that the forest is suddenly inhabited. It just means there are people camping there. So if Sonic and the gang are hanging out on the beach one day, that doesn't mean that the island is suddenly inhabited. It just means that they're hanging out there. Likewise, to say that a civilization possessed the Chaos Emeralds at one point, and then somebody else holds on to one, Gerald is not the human civilization. That's an incredibly acute reading of the expression. So, as for Forces, that I can't even begin to approach, because that world map does not sync with anything else in the series. So that gets a big old hashtag confused shrug out of me.
Yeah, I don't know. But they're different Green Hill zones. There's more than one. Maybe we'll go with that. How about that?
I don't know if that would make it better or more complicated.
Maybe there. Well, you mean you've got Green Hill Zone Act 1, you've got Green Hill Zone Act 2.
Oh, good Lord.
You've got Neo Green Hill Zone. Or do you? Yeah, maybe Green Hill Zone is gigantic. Maybe that's it. Absolutely enormous. Andrew D has a question. Go listen to James Arnold Taylor's voice for Johnny Quest and Wuldor Sockbat. Warning, the second one will most likely have adult content tied to it since it's from adult cartoon. Now, for my question. Is that not the perfect voice for Bean the Dynamite? What did you have in mind when writing him, and will it now be this voice? I can't hear any other voice for Bean now.
I suppose it's appropriate enough. I'm not particularly fond of Johnny test or drawn together, so that's my own bias creeping in. But I mean, Mr. Taylor is a very accomplished voice actor, so I'm sure he could pull it off.
All right. Next question is from Bounce Bloom. How would the IDW cast react to Darkspine Sonic? Suspend disbelief a little at the idea of this form existing outside of Arabian Nights.
I guess a general sense of concern, since it is so dark and burning and a little feisty. It's a little hard to say because we don't get a ton of Darkspine. Like, what little we do is in the heat of battle, and we don't know if he would be a little more mellow outside of that context and would be cool with everybody else, kind of werehog style, or if he would be a little more biting in his interactions. But I mean, at this stage of the game, everybody's so familiar with Sonic and has such a general faith in him. I think that they would give him the benefit of the doubt for the most part.
Alrighty. Quantum Calmness 71 has a question, although this one is sponsored by Funzablufical. So if, for example, Starline built a bubble machine, could he conquer the soul dimension, or is Blaze way too serious to be ooh, pretty?
Now I'm sorely tempted to just, in the recording here, grab the bubble wand and play with my cats.
Distractions.
I think it would work for a little bit. These,
maybe a minute.
I mean, it wouldn't be just normal bubbles. Give Dr. Starline some credit. Well, give Blaze some credit. These mesmerizing, iridescent, giant bubbles floating by the palace, and she has to investigate. And yes, they're gorgeous, but they're also giant, wobbling, ominous orbs from an unknown origin. And perhaps she decides to deal with it as she deals with all things and set it on fire, and perhaps it's extremely flammable. Oops.
Cool.
She just firebombed half the palace. So, okay, she's going to have to do this a different way. Perhaps if she does one of her patented axle spins just without the fire, and oops, the tension on that thing is pretty darn high. So now she's trapped inside that giant bubble. And if she were to burn her way out, she'd kind of set herself on fire. And thus Dr. Starlight is won. Ha ha! 4D chess with the princess. Unfortunately, while he was gloating, his back was turned to Marie and got the bubble wand. You know what happens next.
Oh, no. I hate when those bubbles are made of gasoline. Gas bubbles. Here's a question from Chow Researcher. How much culpability, if any, does Chaos have for both his omnicidal rampages? Even when not in perfect Chaos form, he's lucid enough to work with Eggman until he can obtain the Chaos Emeralds again to continue his massacre. I can't help but feel that Chaos is an evil character who gets off scot-free at the end of Sonic Adventure.
This is, I think, going to largely vary on how your own morals play out. From my understanding, Chaos is more of a force of nature, not really capable of complex or deep thought. So it was perfectly fine just chilling out with the Chow until Pachacama did his thing. And the reaction wasn't I must defend my children against this opposing nation and their horrible desires. It was, bad thing hurt my friend, kill bad thing. And then Tikal said, please stop, and put a pause on it. And then Eggman let him out. And the previous thought of kill things was still running. Large man give emerald, make kill thing easier. No allegiance, no greater cunning, just man give emerald, hit thing. And then Sonic and company would continually pummel it, so it would have to recover, and then would come back with, was hurt, now better, kill again. It wasn't until Super Sonic was able to neutralize that festering primordial anger to bring him from 100 back down to 0% that he was just placid. So I don't think, to me, evil would be Chaos knew the pain and suffering and destruction it was causing, and either not caring that innocence got in the way or relishing that innocence got in the way. And I don't think it's capable of that level of thought. I think it was just, boiling mad, to use the watery pun, and Tikal just managed to pause that. It was never resolved. It's just, in a perpetual state of grr, and then he was let out, and that grr continued. Now, whether or not that makes him culpable, your mileage will vary.
Yeah. I think it's more like he's a force of nature. Sorta. He has some cognitive abilities, but not like it doesn't think that far ahead. He has some. He's somewhat feral. Yes, yes. Question from CTFeologist. Are you familiar with Satoshi Okano's cut Vampire Bat and Spider-Girl character designs from the development of SA1? If so, do you have any thoughts on the designs or the way in which they would potentially be implemented in both story and gameplay?
Passingly familiar. I think it's really cool that they got unearthed after all these years.
Yep.
But beyond that, it's kind of hard to say what they would be beyond that. You know, you have one piece of artwork. That's not a great sample size to build off of. I mean, granted, I probably would relish the challenge if given the opportunity, but it's hard to say what they necessarily would be. What would they bring to the table that's different than the other characters? Like, would a bat be akin to what Knuckles can do? You know, is that like early Rouge concept? What can the technology handle? What is the gameplay that they want to have these characters applied to? Would those designs be altered? You know, was this just like a first pass at an idea? It's so open-ended, I don't even know where to start.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about this before a little bit, I think, too. So go back, check the master list. We talked about this pretty recently, actually. So
didn't you say the spider was supposed to be like a singer or something?
I think, yeah, she's like a pop idol, but she's only appears on like one sign that's barely visible at all. Might even only be actually visible in the files of the game, not in the game itself. I don't remember exactly. But
maybe that could be like a rhythm game.
Maybe. Comic the Hedgehog has a question. Amy and Rouge trade places for the Sonic Heroes story. How do Shadow and Omega feel about being led by Amy, and how do Cream and Big get along with Rouge? You can treat this as a body swap, a roll swap, or both. Your choice.
Well, let's do roll swap.
We have too much body swapping going on this show. It's weird.
It's also kind of, you have to think of their characterization in that era. Because like modern Amy would want current Amy would want, you know, Shadow's alive. Oh, she's so happy. Gets another chance at life. And you know what? They all need to work together. And she's going to make them all be friends if it kills her. Damn it. But Heroes Amy was so Sonic fixated. I don't quite know how she would spin that. One way or the other, she would browbeat Shadow and Omega into following her. Are you going to argue with her? Mm-mm.
No.
And with Rouge, I imagine she realizes that something kidnapping Chow and someone as innocuous as Froggy is weird. There has to be something more going on. And if she solves this mystery, hey, maybe there'll be a treasure or a reward in there somewhere. Ha-ha. So sure, she'll babysit for a little bit as long as it helps her get what she wants.
Maybe. Makes sense. Dawson the Dachshund has a question. Folks still don't trust Surge, so she sweetens the pot by offering anyone in Restoration HQ one free kick, punch, slap, whatever. Just no weapons. Who takes the offer, and would this help Surge make friends?
I don't think anyone would initially take it up because they're afraid of repercussions. Yeah, one free hit now, but what about later? Will she remember this?
Whisper would do it.
So I can see her getting frustrated. Like, this is the only language she knows.
Yeah.
Why isn't anybody taking her up on this? And Amy's like, oh, fine, I'll do it. Just to, show everyone it's okay. She doesn't like it. She doesn't want to hit anybody, really, but she'll do it for Surge's sake. It's twisted logic. All right, fine. Or Tangle just does it.
I mean, yeah. Tangle does it.
You could say, like, free samples or free hit. She will be there.
Yeah. Whisper does it.
Whisper comes to do it, but Tangle and Jewel and everybody kind of makes her stop because they know that one hit's going to be all the hit she needs.
It's not going to stop at just one.
It's like, Surge, trust us. She knows where to hit and how to hit. No.
Yeah, pretty much. And before we take a break, we got a question from DDR Master M. What do you guys think the Ancient Aliens guy does for a living in the Sonic universe? What with the canon Ancient Aliens and all?
Well, obviously he's got to move to a new shtick, so now he's there's two worlds.
No!
There's two worlds and the past is an actual alternate dimension. You got to believe me, guys.
Yeah, okay. I figured he'd go on to be like, Nermies. Not saying it was Nermies, but it was Nermies. We're back and we got a question from Domino. Do you subscribe to the idea of Sonic stories being filtered through different perspectives? For example, Shadow the Hedgehog, 2005, offered a more mature take on Sonic's universe with blood, guns, and cussing. And while we don't see these themes in other entries, they could still be present, just filtered out as the story is told with a more lighthearted tone.
If that's how you want to rationalize it for yourself, I won't contradict it. Go for it.
I guess that's the only reason why Surge don't say a swear in the comics. Even though she totally should and would if she could. Come on. Let her swear.
I that's kind of dodging the question, I guess. Personally, I feel like it doesn't need to be rationalized. It doesn't need any kind of canon answer. It's a franchise of this size and with this kind of longevity is going to be different across entries and over the years. And there's only so much that needs to be taken into account for and covered for. So Shadow's game was an experiment in its own right. It was kind of different than what other Sonic titles are tone-wise, but I don't think that needs like a reason. It's just that's how the game was.
Guess you don't have to rationalize it.
Like that, the same reason why you don't need to rationalize the tone of Colors versus the tone of Frontiers.
Yeah.
It's just that different adventures that were handled different ways by different people. So it is what it is.
Yes.
Personally, that's my approach. That I'm content with that. If you want to think of it as we're looking at it through the lens of a certain character or whatever, and that makes you happy, cool. Go with that.
All right. Here's a question from Double L. Sonic, the retired zone cop, chops wood near his log cabin, far from everyone. Suddenly, a helicopter with Warden Zobotnik, Zegman, approaches to pull him from retirement for one final job. There's a code isekai going on with some sort of gray duck mad scientist jumping universes at a rate. I'm guessing maybe they meant like a rate unforeseen or something. Does Sonic start his search at the first instance they have of this Starline character? Try to guess where he ends up next, or whatever better thing you can think of.
Sonic shakes his head slowly and says, "Sorry, Warden. I'm retired. I can't do this anymore." And patiently waits for the Warden to get back in the ship and fly off. Make sure nobody else is around. Goes back inside and looks at his guest. "Starline, we need to figure something out. That was too close for comfort."
What is Starline doing there?
"I'm hiding. Do you know how many times I've isekai'd? Just the word alone makes me nauseous. Show everything sideways here, but that's better than any alternative. Help me, Zuni-One Kenobi. You're my only hope."
Yeah.
For the last time, that's not my name. Figure this out.
Oh, well. I'm glad Starline found love. Happy Pride Month, everybody.
Not where I was going, but you can build your log cabin however you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, sideways. Here's one from Dove. Oh no, somebody stole Sparkster's armor and repainted it to fit their color scheme. Looking at you, Kyle. What did I do? I didn't do it. Ian, who stole the Rocket Knight armor and what trouble did they cause? It sounds like I'm being accused of stealing the Sparkster armor.
Or is now the KNGI armor, Kyle?
No, it's fine. I don't, it's okay. I don't need it. I'm slightly weirded out by heights, so.
Well, you should have thought of that before you stole the Sparkster armor.
Yeah, probably should have.
Although I do admit it makes more sense now seeing you like ricochet off walls and fly through the air. Those didn't really sound like joyful cheers, but more like screams of terror. And now I know.
Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. All right, here's one from Emmy. Time for more Angry Birds X Sonic crossover goodness. Through some multiversal mumbo jumbo, Red has managed to find himself in the middle of Restoration HQ. How does this surprisingly capable, responsibility-driven leader handle being in somewhere completely new? Who would be able to break through his thick, eternally grumpy, and short-tempered exterior and be able to appreciate his softer side? Who manages to trigger his short temper and make him mad? Would Eggman even find any use for him when he inevitably decides to launch an attack? And how long until Red becomes incredibly paranoid about the fate of his flock back home?
Again, I am not familiar with Angry Birds or the lore.
You might want to get familiar because, parent company owns him now.
When I am asked, I will take it upon myself, okay?
I
can handle so many franchises at a time.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming this is like movie version?
I would figure as much. There really ain't much lore to the games.
I didn't think so. But given the description made in this particular question, I would imagine that Red would go looking for, the nearest authority figure or someone who runs Restoration HQ to figure out what's going on. In that case, he and Lanolin sound like they'd get along real well. He and Tangle, not so much. He and Sonic, probably not too much neither. But if anyone's going to crack that exterior, it's either going to be Amy or Cream. If Amy can't do it, Cream absolutely will. And if he's duty-driven, he's going to worry about his flock the minute he realizes he's, not in Kansas anymore.
That makes sense. Here's one from Energy. It's been a while, and I'm not sure if this has ever been discussed, but with the partnership with LEGO and the various LEGO stuff between Sonic, has there been any change on whether LEGO Dimension is considered quote-unquote canon? I remember asking why Dimensions wasn't referenced in the encyclopedia a long while back, and you said something about not getting permission. Would it be reasonable to say that's now changed?
Number one, I don't remember LEGO Dimensions being a permission thing. It might have been a timing thing, but it's been so long, I don't remember for sure. As for LEGO Sonic, it is its own thing. Like, it's quite clearly not modern Sonic canon. It's LEGO Sonic. If you really want it to be part of the greater canon, I don't know, call it a Shatter Space or something. But it's not representative of like mainline central brand Sonic. It's LEGO Sonic.
It's part of the LEGO canon, not of the Sonic canon. Like LEGO Batman is not canonical to Batman, so...
Sadly.
Well, I mean, it should be, but it is not.
I mean, it goes for both, really. But...
Yes. Godzilla has a question. Small spoiler for the Paramount Plus Knuckles series. Now that we know Knuckles is a fan of Julia Roberts movies, which one should he watch next? Notting Hill, My Best Friend's Wedding, Aaron Brockovich, Hook? Judging from the series, I think he might be a fan of Eat, Pray, Love.
Not being particularly familiar with Miss Roberts' filmography, I'm going to default to Hook.
Yeah.
I'm going to default to Hook on most instances where Hook is even remotely applicable.
Yes, as you should, because that movie's awesome. I
mean, I want him to fight Jim Botnick and say, looky, I have Eggy. And nobody gets the reference except for him.
Good.
Like, I want him to be completely confused by the dinner scene until finally it clicks that he embraced his imagination and he is just so deeply moved.
Yes.
And then everyone's really confused why he's sitting down to dinner and just eating empty air. No, you don't understand. This is the food of my people. I've missed it for so long. None of you weaklings know how to cook it properly, but this... Of course, exactly how I remember it.
Yes. Oh man, Knuckles really is Rufio, isn't he?
Oh, he would love Rufio, and he would vow to avenge Rufio.
Oh,
he will drag Hook out of the crocodile just to avenge Rufio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Goomba Broadcast has a question. Couldn't help but notice that Hawkeye Wolf's hoverbike and Fang's Marvelous Queen both have some sort of whistle call feature. Was this to imply both vehicles are the same make, or was this simply an idea you wanted to continue using beyond the Witch Carters with no lore connections?
No immediately intended lore connections, but their bikes are kind of similar in design, so it would be kind of neat if that was a mechanical feature. but I wouldn't read too much into it.
Yeah. All right. Hearts 13 has a hypothetical. Sonic HBO. In one of the hypothetical infinite parallel realities of our world, Sega of America and Japan worked together to make a Sonic live-action / CGI animated series for HBO. Written by Ben Hurst and directed by Kazutaka Ikegami, the director for the Sonic OVA. The show is aimed for teens. The CGI is based on Sega Saturn graphics, and it combines Japanese and American elements of classic Sonic into one storyline. How does the first season go, and what Sonic games, Genesis and or Saturn, and or 90s Sonic cartoons did they make references to? They bought all the rights in that reality, so feel free to add as much as little or as little as you're comfortable.
The idea of trying to achieve even Saturn-level fidelity on a TV budget, on a TV schedule, and marry it to live-action footage, that would be the worst-looking thing in the world. Dear Lord.
Well, I mean, you know, they tried it. We had the Mortal Kombat show.
Yeah. Like, I kind of wish this did happen just for the sheer audacity of it.
Oh, it would be a freaking nightmare.
Like, I'm feeling nostalgic charm for this train wreck, and it never actually happened.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
That, and I honestly cannot begin to fathom how you would marry the writing sensibilities of Western Sonic lore and Japanese Sonic lore. Because at the time, the thinking was, you know, the regions will handle the brand as best suits them, and there the twain shall meet.
Or at least rarely.
Right. There was always this kind of power struggle until the full brand reboot in 99 with the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Where all the Western stuff was kind of said, nope, you're done. So how would that even do? And if we're talking like early 90s, there wasn't a ton of stuff to reference.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think the closest to this concept we kind of got would have been Archie Sonic, but even at the time, it was mostly like, Western focused.
Like maybe some kind of weird amalgamation of Sat AM's world and like the OVA's world.
Maybe,
but
why is it live action? Why is there any live action involved in it? Who is live action?
No, dude. The idea of like a live actress playing Sarah against a rushed out the door Saturn era CG Sonic is just mind blowing. Who even plays Eggman?
At that time,
in the 90s.
In the 90s, Jim Carrey.
And then he shows up in the movie all the years later, and it's like, oh my god, they got him back for the role.
No, maybe at that time it might be. At that time, it might be Danny DeVito.
Hey, I'd watch it.
Yeah, you know, I would too.
I don't know. This question is kind of like saying, here, combine these apples and oranges and make a smoothie, but all you get is a hand chopper.
Good luck.
I cannot rationalize this fever dream of a concept.
No, it's tough. This is wild. It's a wild thought. Anyway, if you can figure this out, put it down in the comments below. And Jara has a question. Sage decides to host a slumber party and invites the Badnik girls, Metal Amy, Heavy Magician, Metal Trip, and Amy Doll to attend. What hijinks ensue from this?
Perhaps not much initially, since 3 out of the 5 don't seem to have too much in means of personality, at least not established.
Some of them don't even seem to move.
Yeah, so maybe it's a question of whether Sage like reprograms them to have personalities to engage with, or Heavy Magician works her magic to have them be a little more personable. Ultimately, though, Amy Doll is a bit of a hugger, and that's a problem because she detonates upon the squeeze. So that's at least the highest of hijinks that ensues.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. And our final question on this episode comes from none other than our good buddy, Professor Scruffy Met. Greetings, bumbly ones. Time for another epic showdown. DBZ Abridged Jace of the Ginyu Force versus Marine the Raccoon. It's Space Australia versus Soul Australia. What happened?
There's a bit of bickering and banter at first, but then they become the bestest of friends.
Well, that was easy.
Until
Oh,
Jace's idea of fun, which is, genocide, comes to light, and then Marine takes him out.
well, then there we go. I'm being told what happens is no one can understand them.
They talk to each other perfectly fine.
They can understand each other. Yeah.
You just kind of hear some ossified jibber jabber.
It's true. It's true.
Every now and again punctuated with a might.
I might. All right. Let's get out of here, Mike.
That'll do it for now. Thank you to all our patrons over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members for supporting the show and submitting all your questions. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.
Catch you later. They say something about going to the dunny.
Why does everything smell like Marmite?
Need a bog roll for the dunny, mate. It's Vegemite anyway, not Marmite.
Oh, my bad.
Tisk tisk. Do you need to look this up before we go on to the next one?
Yeah, I just realized I forgot to look this up.
Oh, oops.
1 second.
Questions that require homework. Oh, questions. The worst kind.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org. All right, break time.
Do we want to do an outro for the break?
No. It's funnier if it's just Nermies and then bum, ba-da, bum.
You are absolutely correct, sir.
Yeah, I know. I'm finally correct about something. Anyway.